everyone. Welcome to Our Town. I am Jill Lawrence, and we have a important subject to discuss today about our community and about our schools. So I have these great guests with me. Mr. Thomas Doyle, you are the school chair, or the school committee chair.
Yep.
And since 2014, so 5 years.
Yes.
Resident of Norfolk since 2005.
Yes.
And on the school committee in general since 2010, right?
That is correct.
It's a long time. And a prior member of the building committee for Freeman Kennedy and superintendent search and all those good things. So welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Medora Champagne, you've been on the school committee just about 2 years.
That's right.
Okay, great. And you're on the building subcommittee?
I am. I sit on the building subcommittee and the budget subcommittee as well,
Okay,
so I'm all about fun.
Yes, right. You guys are all about meetings. It was what it seems to be, because there's a lot of meetings. So we are together today. We came together today because of a kind of imperative situation of overcrowding in the Norfolk Public Schools. So I say that with a heavy heart because I know it's such a difficult situation, and but we've got solutions on the table, right? Literally.
Yes.
Preliminary design concepts on the table. So Thomas, if you want to start off and kind of maybe explain the overcrowding or explain some of that, and then take it as you want from there.
Sure. Well, Medora and I wanted to appear today because we wanted to bring attention to what is going to be a very serious crisis going forward for the town. We're right at the tipping point where we've got to address the school population for both the schools.
Okay.
So we all chose to live here. It's a very popular town. People will continue to want to live here for the quality of life.
Mm-hmm. And move in, and continue to move in.
Right, and the other side of the coin is going to be the various projects going on that not necessarily the most popular in some venues, but that's not our concern. But we do have to deal with the ramifications, which is the students that are to come from all that growth.
Right.
So what we want to do is ensure that we get a chance for everyone to know what everything is going to be about as far as the proposal to expand the Freeman Kennedy School.
Okay, so there's overcrowding at both schools.
Correct.
H. Olive Day, the
Yep.
primary school, as well as Freeman Kennedy, which is what people call the new school.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, and the overcrowding is, not negotiable. Obviously, it's happening. It's happening. It's already happened, and so now your proposal is to zero in on the Freeman Kennedy School because it was. You had mentioned it was built with this in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a specific reason when we designed it, and if you kind of picture it in your mind of the two wings going out in the back, the idea was to be able to eventually join those wings should we ever need to. We're now at the point where we need to. Yeah. If you go to HOD, lovely school, nice new roof, playgrounds, the grounds are very nice. Everything is possibly done with that place that can be done.
Right.
We have no land left.
Right.
So there's nothing else we can do there.
Okay.
So with this expansion that we're discussing, if we're able to expand Freeman Kennedy in the way that we're thinking makes the most sense, and a lot of people have weighed in on this, and we'll get to that, it will relieve some of the issues at HOD itself.
As well. Okay.
So it's like a twofold one, and there's a benefit to the town that we'll also be able to get into. So the community at large will benefit. So our whole goal is to get everyone to at least understand everything that went into this process, all the facts, all the details, and then make an informed decision. If they choose to not support the project, that's fine.
Right.
But at least they then know all the facts and a basis for that.
Right. And the consequences of either action or
Correct.
inaction at this point.
Okay, that's right, because that was one of the questions that we sort of came up with, Medora did, is, what will happen if we do nothing as a town?
Short version is we don't really have another option here. Then we can expand on that greatly. I mean, if you want to build on the adage, if you build them, they will come. Well, they're coming. These kids are going to be here.
They're already
here.
Yeah.
There are a number of things that from the onset would be very difficult for us to want to do. We have one classroom left at Freeman. We have none at HOD. Wow. And at HOD, as it is, we converted over a teacher space into a classroom.
That's right. Okay.
So you're now talking the next step would be converting over the arts, the music, the maker space in both buildings to do that.
Those designated rooms at HOD.
What both they call schools. The specials.
The specials.
Yeah, the specials.
And that hasn't happened as of this current school year. No, like there's still an
no,
art
as
room.
Of right
there's
now,
still a music room.
It's okay.
Yeah.
However, I mean, even if we proceed with the time frame, the best possible time frame for expansion, and get the addition onto the Freeman School, there will be at least 1 year in the intervening build-out time frame when we do have to eliminate the special rooms at the HOD.
Okay.
And I mean, it's just simply, at least in some capacity, it's going to be unavoidable, even if we move forward with the best possible logistical time frame.
Yeah, but we're trying to limit that just to the year.
1 year. Okay.
And I mean, anyone can see the common sense thing of you can't just eliminate the art room, you can't eliminate the music room, any of these special rooms. They're needed.
Yeah.
We have to have them per the curricular requirements.
Right.
So this isn't as simple as, okay, we can just roll a cart down to someone's room. Yeah, for a short period of time, like the year that Medora just mentioned, okay, we can make do for a year, but that can't be the permanent solution. Okay. And then secondly, you still have additional kids coming. It still doesn't address the long-term problem.
It doesn't.
So something has to be done at a certain point. So it makes sense sooner rather than later to approach that and make that happen. So we think we have a project that will benefit everyone.
Okay, great. Do you want to talk about numbers of kids, or do you want? I mean, I don't know if that's relevant, or do you want to? Is there like the actual changes in the student population, or that's just? I guess we don't need to know specific. I don't know if we need to know specific numbers of kids, but
so we've had 2 rounds of enrollment studies done by an organization called NESDAC.
NESDAC, okay.
And actually,
New England something or other, right?
It is.
Yes, New England something or other. Yes.
And Dr. Kennedy, who is the individual who's been overseeing the projections for this. For Norfolk, essentially, he went into some really good detail at the last select board meeting where we presented this option to the town as well, as far as the individual studies that have been performed. The long and the short of it is that there was some stagnation in growth in Norfolk during the economic downturn. Fewer people were selling their homes because homes simply weren't moving.
Right.
Young families weren't moving into town at the clip that they have been over the past couple of years. And just in general, development growth within Norfolk has been exploding over the past few years as well. So you have that coupled with the fact that when the real estate market picked back up, all of the gorgeous homes in Norfolk that people have been living in for 30 years and we're finally able to sell at a profit, sold, young families moved in, and we are faced with a lot of kids who need to get into the school system. So
that's a good explanation because it's twofold. It's not just the development, of the new, lots of new homes, but we have that, but also the upturn in the real estate market. Yeah.
And so the projections that NESDAC provided to us, could I actually grab that, Thomas? I want to make sure I'm not saying something that's incorrect.
This is not
the most recent one. Oh, this is something different. So it's okay. I mean, I'm not going to give specific numbers because I don't want to
misquote.
Yeah, exactly. But I can say that what is being projected over the next approximately 5 years, there's some years that are skewing on the high end of the projection, some that are a little bit lower, is around a 4.5% student population growth annually.
Oh, wow.
Which will lead to the addition of, I think the number was somewhere between 200 and 300 additional kids into the school system by 2023, 2024.
Yes.
So when you say what will happen if we do nothing, if we did absolutely nothing, what will happen in 2023 is we will have 40 kindergartners who won't be able to physically fit in the HOD.
Right, because I know that a lot of parents know this fact, but just to send it out for everyone, the state of Massachusetts puts on limits for class size. Per grade, right, or per development. So you can't have a classroom of kindergartners that has 35 children in it, right? Per state regs.
Has mandates as
well,
our
district
too.
does, yeah.
And they're a little bit lower than that.
We put those in place a number of years ago. So right now we're sort of over. We're kind of an in-between space now.
Okay.
We're over our target amount,
for the district.
We're bumping up to our max amount.
Okay.
And so that again all ties this together where. This is very much something we're going to have to address sooner rather than later. So it's going to happen.
The max amount, I believe, is 25 kids per classroom. Or it
depending on the grade.
Depending on the grade. But
yes,
as an example, I know there were classrooms at the Freeman School last year that were that big.
Yeah.
25 children
or
with one teacher.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it's, it's an issue that we're experiencing now. It's going to get exponentially larger each year in the very short term going forward. I know there's been some question about how accurate NESDEC's projections are. Everybody wants to question, and as well they should. You should always question the data.
And they're an independent. I mean, they don't have any
correct
skin in the game, right?
Yeah.
They're just you hired them to project.
Well, they're the
right.
recognized source on this as well.
Yeah, right.
And they do this for any number of schools. So this isn't just some fly-by-night operation we found. I mean, they this is what they do. They're the recognized experts in this field. So yes, I have we have every bit of confidence in their figures. They're
and
correct.
The figures are even supported by the fact that the initial round of projections they did for us in around, I think, 2016, early 2017, possibly. Ingrid approached the town, said she thought there should be a spacing committee to discuss possible choices, which were sort of explored, and we can get into that as well. But in addition, NESDEC was retained at that point to do a projection based upon data we had at that time, which was not as firm as the data we have now. So the data that was projected then from the kind of anticipated building that was going to happen, there were some vague developments on the horizon at that point. That
just 2 years ago.
Yeah, that hadn't broken construction, hadn't even been approved yet. So that sourced projection that was sourced from the less firm data, if you apply it to this school year, this year, I believe they were off by less than 3% as far as what they projected the school population to be. So they're excellent
it's remarkably
at what they
accurate.
do. Yeah, it's very,
and
very
like
close.
you said, that was before they'd broken ground and everything had been approved. Through town. Ingrid is Dr. Alardi. Ingrid Alardi. No, that's okay. And she's the superintendent of schools for Norfolk. And she's been very, it sounds like, had good vision on this issue coming down and trying to, keep everyone
She's
aware.
been extraordinarily proactive.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, great. So, so we've identified the problem or explained the problem. With
now we're gonna fix it.
That's the hard part, right? So, so how are you going to fix it? I mean, I know you're talking about the Freeman Kennedy addition. Do you want to talk more specifically about? Oh, I know. Well, one of your questions was like modular classrooms or eliminating preschool. I don't know if you want to go through all of those, but obviously you guys, it sounds like you've crossed T's and dotted I's and really gone through what you can do to solve it. And now you've got your design concepts, your prelim.
Yes, this is something that, as Medora mentioned, has been in the works for a number of years now. So the space committee that she mentioned, it went through every scenario possible.
Right.
So just as a quick background, there was, could we do something to, in modular classrooms is something that's a popular concept for people. Like, can you use, I used modular classrooms as a child, or why can't we use them?
The old Freeman had them.
Exactly.
I remember.
Which is one of the main reasons we replaced it. But number one is safety. That it's putting everything else aside, money aside, everything else. You now have an independent building or buildings that are outside the school proper. We can't work that in our security plan. So without going down a really horrible road, we can't have that happen. So that pretty much ended that there. It's not an option.
The footprint logistically is
I was going to say, it's not an option HOD, as I mentioned earlier. There's no land. So we have nowhere to put this. It's pretty expensive. It's about a little over $1.5 million, $1.6 million for all the site work that would be associated, because you've got to bring electric, you've got to do septic, most of that having to be done at HOD, into those classrooms. And then you have to rent the classrooms themselves, which I think 12 of them between the two schools is total price tag ends up being about $2.5 million. And they're only for a 5-year lease. So then again, going back to what we said earlier as far as the growth, then what? Now you're talking, you still may have to do an expansion of Freeman, and it's now the price tag is now that much more.
Because you've already paid.
You've already paid an average of 4 to 6% increase in estimated building costs year over year.
And modular classrooms, it seems like has been a solution going back decades for overcrowding. But like you pointed out, that was before this current era of school shootings, so school safety challenges. And as a parent, can you imagine thinking, oh my God, my kid's in a modular classroom? And that's another layer that is a good thing to point out. So let me ask you this question. According to the, what is it, NESDEC? NESDEC, okay. According to their projections, the addition that you're proposing for Freeman, that will carry out for how many years? How will that, meaning, I know it'll take a little time to get it in, but does that look like it'll solve the problem for 10 years or more than that?
It's a little The short answer would be yes. It's a little difficult. NASDAQ, the way they did their calculations is beyond a certain point, it's pure guesstimate.
Yeah.
To take it back a step, the numbers they used are approved projects now. There's still some projects that are in the approval stage, so these numbers could become a little worse, or other things could happen. Mm-hmm. So beyond 5 years, just statistically, they didn't feel comfortable, and we didn't want it, where they would propose numbers that, quite frankly, we don't know what to base them on. You have no idea what the economy is going to be at that point. There's so many outside factors.
Yeah, so it's hard to go out more than 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay,
so what the main thing is, what this expansion would enable us to do is be able to address everything that we predict as of now, and then give us some growth beyond that.
Okay.
Obviously, if we're up 2,000 kids 20 years down the road, okay, we've got some separate things we need to work on.
Correct.
But at least on what we're dealing with now, we feel this is the way to go.
Okay.
This is the best way to go.
Okay. Do you want to talk about the design itself, or I guess you've already sort of talked about where the building would go. Are there other things about how to solve it that you think are important for the community to know?
So what the overall proposal is that the addition to the Freeman School is going to be utilized for two separate purposes, with some added benefits to the town. So the two separate purposes being on the second floor portion of the addition, there are going to be additional classrooms for the Freeman School.
Okay,
so that will right, correct, and which is another distinguishing characteristic from the HOD. Even if we could add on, you'd have to do sort of a sprawling single story without really disrupting things over there. So you'll have classroom space upstairs for the expanding student population at the Freeman School. Yeah. What the downstairs classrooms are actually going to be utilized for is for the special education services and preschool program that's housed at the HOD now. Okay. So the idea is to transfer that and those offices to that first floor. That will free up a tremendous amount of space at HOD, which is where the situation is most dire as far as needing classroom
HOD
space.
is dire right now,
HOD is at capacity. There's no more space.
Right. And Freeman's got one classroom.
Correct. And then at the same time, you have the same infrastructure for security and things of that nature that you're kind of piggybacking onto. At the Freeman School, you already have a egress point that can be sort of separated for the preschool program. Right. And I know some people have speculated that maybe our problems could all be solved by eliminating preschool. What purpose does it serve, or is it required? The answer to that is that it's required by the state. And a preschool has to be presented. It's mandated by law for students who may have disabilities that require services, and it's required to be presented in what's referred to as an integrated environment, meaning that you have to provide what are called, a typical peer group for those students. Peers, so right now what we have at the HOD is you will have students who require services. If there are, I think it's like a 6-to-4 ratio, something like that, as far as how those classrooms are set up. There is aside from that, there's a huge waiting list just to get into the kind of typical peer group. That's right. The preschool program at the HOD, just reflecting, the changing demographic of Norfolk in general. As the population grows, so does the population of children who require services. So we can't. Not only can we not eliminate preschool, we are going to need more preschool classrooms as required by law in the coming years.
Got it. Well, that's an important.
One of the things we had looked at for the preschool was, could we move that off-site? Could we create another space? Well, now you're into a third space. Right. And then by the time you add in everything that's associated with it, you have to have a building administrator, you have to have a nurse, you have to get the land, everything. And so that it didn't yield any kind of cost savings.
Right. It doesn't sound like it.
It would free up a little bit of space at HOD at a great cost. It wouldn't do anything to Freeman. Right. And we're still right back to the same thing. So that's why believe me, every option was explored at length, but just there's really not another option that we could come up with. Yeah,
you guys have probably been working on this for the better part of a year or so. Have you, the building subcommittee?
A little more than that at this point.
It's been going on for a great period of time. As I said, the original building was designed such that we could handle the growth if we had to.
Okay, great. So we talked about the specials. So what is the time frame for the proposed building expansion, and with respect to the town meeting and voting from the town?
So it's changed a little bit because we actually have had some interesting news recently, which is that MSBA, which is the state organization that will grant fund certain construction projects in association with schools.
And we got some of that for the Freeman?
We did. We got money from the Freeman, and then we got a 1/3 grant for the roof this past summer at the HOD as well.
That was important because
yeah, and so we saved that money there. And MSBA is fantastic to work with on any project because they provide tremendous oversight. They historically, if you have an MSBA project, the odds of you coming in on time and under budget are huge. I mean, I think the Freeman School was under budget by
almost $1 million.
Almost $1 million.
Oh, wow.
Well, that money actually helped us to do the funded design study for this. It was partly then went to the HOD roof project, so that was sort of the gift that kept on giving.
Oh, yeah, coming in under $1 million.
Yes,
and then
$1 million under budget, and then the roof came in under budget.
Is projected to, we haven't done final closeout on that, but the projection is, a conservative projection is we're going to be about $200,000 under budget on that relative to what was, I think, like a $2.9 million.
Correct.
And MSBA is like Massachusetts School Building Authority. Okay.
And so historically, MSBA would not consider grant funding additions unless you were already in crisis. Basically. They have changed their position slightly to say that they will consider it if you have significant data reflecting a burgeoning crisis with space. And so we intend to submit an application to see if we can secure a grant in April. We'll have to wait until around probably August to see if that grant is approved or not. If it's not, we'll continue to apply and keep our options open.
Yes.
You can. We had to apply twice for the roof.
Oh, okay.
They have a lot of people, a lot of school districts asking them for money. And then what will happen is, just checking my notes, so in the fall of 2020, we'll go for a funding for the feasibility study to do the final workup for the plans.
Okay, for the actual addition.
Yep, that would be the fall town meeting. We'd ask for money for the final feasibility study, and then in the spring town meeting of next year, so of 2021, we'd be looking for the full funding, whether that is fully funded by the town or partially grant funded by MSBA. We'll have to wait and see, and the goal would be to start construction that summer with an opening date of the fall of 2022, which is when our spacing crisis is going to be at its zenith. So that would be ideal.
Right. So the time is now.
Yes.
But also it's nice that you have it sort of spelled out where it gives the community some time to digest and get the facts, which is why we're here. And then also, get prepared to, so it won't be until about a year from now when you would put it up for, you said the fall of 2020,
for the feasibility funding,
and is that a vote? Is that that's a vote at town meeting?
Correct.
Yes.
The fall town meeting, there would be a vote for that. So basically 2 votes.
Yes, 2 votes. Feasibility and then the actual money for the
final approval of the project. Yes.
Project. Okay. All right. Well, this is great. So we just have a few minutes left. So let's. What else? What do you think is most important to talk about? I feel like we've covered a lot.
I guess the one thing I'd mention,
the benefits to the town. We don't want to forget that.
I neglected to. Well, so there would be some additional an upside for the town. Currently, I don't know if you're aware of this, or I certainly wasn't. The town doesn't have an actual approved designated disaster relief center.
Right.
So, for instance, if we had a town-wide power outage of some kind, not that that would ever happen in Norfolk, but if there was a horrible ice storm and all the power
went out. It's always on my street, and the rest of my neighborhood is still on. Like,
this is being designed to include certain things, like I think some shower systems and things like that would allow this to serve as a disaster relief area.
Okay, because we don't have one.
We do not have one currently, no. And then in addition to that, I believe there's been some coordination with the recreation department so that we can work with them to meet some of their needs as far as having additional space for rec programming in the years going forward, because as the population of kids in town grows, so does the rec programming ideally.
Yes.
So that would
and
be
the rec programming is spectacular.
It's amazing
already.
It's amazing.
So, okay, so that would give them some more space. Okay, so these are some of the other benefits the town might see with a Freeman Kennedy addition. And another. Thomas, you had something that you thought of.
I was just going to say, a question has come up, or I've been asked before, as far as why initially we hadn't designed this and built the extension
the whole
already.
Thing. Okay.
When the school was built, the project probably would have been a little cheaper then. The problem was, when you partner with MSBA, and they're fantastic to work with, They're very stringent in terms of their building requirements. Two quick examples. We originally were going to do air conditioning in Freeman. That got cut out really early on in the project.
Because of money.
Exactly. There was a particular classroom that, to close out the project, I think we must have had to resubmit things about 10 times to say what the purpose of that classroom was going to be before they would essentially reimburse us for that specific classroom.
Wow, that's stringent.
But they run a tight ship because, as Medora mentioned, they're very popular. A lot of towns want to utilize them. But we were also able to get 50% of building costs for a very, very nice school that's got all the certifications and
it's climate controlled, I thought, right? Just not AC.
Well, it's controlled air.
Right.
It's definitely more comfortable in September than say the HOD might be.
Right.
So we couldn't have just built this wing on and had it sit empty. They wouldn't have paid for it.
They wouldn't have paid for it.
Aside from the fact that we would have been paying to heat it.
Yeah, so then you're heating it, you're cleaning it,
many years.
you have to get the furniture for it. It wouldn't have made sense. We would have left the town with a $12 million extra bill, and then who's to say this growth actually took place? It didn't make sense to do it then.
Right.
So
that is absolutely such a good logic point. I'm so glad we got that in.
Yeah, we've always kind of prided ourselves on being as prudent as possible because, we're taxpayers too.
Right.
We don't want to have any extra stuff if we don't have to, but there are times we do have to do this. And even with this project, honestly, I know one of the conversations is going to come up for folks like, okay, what is this going to do to our tax bill? We actually think all things considered, it's not going to be the effect that people maybe think it's going to be. There's some things coming off. There's a way of doing the financing of it where it will be as neutral as it can be. And I know that is always the thing with any single project that comes into town, and I know that's going to be the knee-jerk reaction of why someone might be opposed to it.
Right.
I would invite anyone and everyone, please come talk to us, and we'll give you all the details on that you want.
Absolutely.
We'll
give
put
you
your
the numbers.
Up,
we won't bore people with fiscal stuff right now. That's
and the most recent select board meeting, I think was it October 29th or 30th?
29th.
The 29th, we presented and went into a little more detail about the financial implications and impacts. Obviously, our preference would be to secure the MSBA grant, which would significantly, obviously, reduce the spend at the end of the project.
I had no idea it was 50% of Freeman Kennedy. 50%, that's wild. And the roof was a big percentage too.
And the good thing is we now have a track record with it. One of the things that will help us in the possibility of applying for this is that we have that track record of being 2 for 2 with projects. Okay. So ideally, they smile upon us and let us go to the plate the third time.
Yeah,
that's
sounds like it. You've got good. How do you say it?
We have good mojo with us.
Yeah,
so we'll see how that plays out.
And we have a reputation as a town that doesn't try to overspend.
Right.
And a district that takes excellent care of their facilities.
Right.
And those are the districts that they like to work with.
So we're hoping all that kind of goes to our favor because again, we want to make this as financially pleasing to the town as possible while still addressing the need that we definitely have.
Well, recognizing that it's a necessity.
Correct.
So
not a vanity project. It's something that literally has to be done.
Yep. Okay, so I know your last question is a can of worms here. Why does the town continue to allow residential development if we feel we won't be able to meet it? Well, that's not really up to you guys, right?
Unfortunately, no, it's not.
Yeah. So that's sort of neither. It's a good thing to point out, though, because I think people watching the show who are concerned about taxes would say, well, why? Why are we allowing it? But that is not the school committee's job, so...
Yeah, we just have to deal with the ramifications of that, and that's what we're trying to do the best we can.
Yeah,
so we understand that. We all share those same concerns.
Absolutely, and I mean, frankly speaking, by the time this gets off the ground, I think a majority of the current school committee will not even have children in the school system anymore, so we will only be paying.
Yeah, same with me.
Exactly, and so we're trying to be as fiscally reasonable as we can be while still solving the problem and just get out ahead of it to the extent that we can.
Okay. Well, it sounds like you're doing terrific work. So on behalf of the town of Norfolk, I thank you for working hard and being so thorough and coming on today to explain the facts because that's sort of the very important part of it. So thank you, Thomas Doyle.
Thank you.
Medora Champagne.
Thank you.
And Norfolk School Committee, your emails will be on there. That's okay, right?
Of course.
Someone sends you questions? Okay, great.
We have a meeting tonight at 7. If someone's interested, we meet once a month.
We'll talk about it again.
Love to see people come there and ask questions.
The calendar of school committee meetings is on the website, the town website.
Yes.
So everyone's welcome. Right?
Everyone
at
is
any
welcome,
time.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks again for being here. And with this, like you said, a crisis situation. And so for NCTV, I am Jill Lawrence. Thanks for watching.